What's going on? Welcome back to the channel. So today I want to talk to you about Rivian. They do have their earnings coming up this week. I want to go over some expectations, where it might be going, and everything else you need to know. But first, make sure you guys hit that thumbs up. And with that, let's get right to it. So over the last 5 days, Rivian has kind of moved higher, up 10.07%. So kind of signaling a little bit of a bottom. So I'm going to go over the technicals near the tail end. So we'll go over that. But going into this upcoming week on the 20th after hours, that's their earnings. Negative 65 cents for the earnings per share, 1.43 billion for revenue. And over the last 90 days, you've seen 12 positive, 4 negative revisions to the earnings per share. And so looking at it a little bit more closely, so that earnings per share does represent 52.54% year-over-year growth. So pretty good stuff. And even if you look forward, it's solid double digits. So that's kind of what you want to see. Low end of negative 79, high end of negative 58 based on 18 analysts. This has actually moved up slightly over the last 2 weeks. And most likely that is because of some recent analyst ratings. So I'm going to go over that as well in this video. But the revenue, 1.43 billion, that does represent 8.43% year-over-year growth. 1.07 billion for the low, 1.6 the high based on 20 analysts. So yes, the key metrics are going to be a big deal, but in reality, it's just a small fraction of what the market is going to really see as a beat and as a broad success, because we've seen over the last 3 weeks, 2-3 weeks, that a lot of companies hit the key metrics, but they do fail to give good future guidance and they get slaughtered. So when it comes to Rivian, what is their 2025 targets? What are they doing to innovate? Any partnerships? Like, that is what the market is really going to look at and potentially tear apart, because right now, again, the market is taking no BS. It is either you do a good job or you're somewhat on the fence, and the market is just, again, going to just completely slaughter you. So this is definitely going to be a very interesting earnings, and even more so with what Trump has really done. So they already kind of got rid of that $7,500 tax credit, and just, I think in general, going to make the whole life for EVs very difficult. RJ actually did bring that up roughly around like 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago in an article, saying that Rivian's still going to do good, but it's going to be more difficult. And again, that's under a Trump administration. Going into this upcoming week, 18.7% of the free float is being shorted. Works out to be 139.16 million shares overall are being shorted. You do see cost to borrow minimum negative. So that does mean that there is a broker out there physically paying people to short Rivian. So a little bit signs of manipulation, but all in all, you do see shorts returning a little bit. So potentially that does mean that maybe they are rather optimistic going into their upcoming earnings. So again, something to kind of consider. Looking at the implied move, so you do see 11.94%. So roughly around $1.67 in either direction, both plus or minus. But even looking back at historical data, you can kind of just see Rivian does kind of miss like roughly around like 70% of the time. And again, that's kind of looking back at this column right here, so the 2-week move post earnings. So when it comes to it, Rivian is either somewhat flat, so it kind of stays close to the -3, or it just gets massively beaten down, where you get negative 28%, negative 19%, 31%, 15%. So it is definitely a very big roller coaster. And I feel like this upcoming earnings is even more cutthroat than many of the other previous ones that they encountered. So let me know your viewpoint on that. As far as the call options that were purchased for this upcoming week, you do see a consensus for it to be around that $16 to $17 range. So a little bit of upside. Bears, on the flip side, they are anticipating for it to be kind of around that $11 range. So clearly a miss. And then there's this one very large pocket right here for $9.50. So someone's really betting big that Rivian is going to miss on all fronts. So let me know your viewpoint on that. But aside from that though, with it at 1403, it is trading between this R1 and the pivot. 1379 is going to be a strong support, followed by 1208. So the initial bears are anticipating for it to kind of trade within that range. And then you have 1550, 56 being the next strong target slash resistance points. And so ultimately the bulls are anticipating for it to trade between this R3 and this R2. So regardless, it is going to be a fun week ahead. So you can definitely place your bets through options. So if you are doing and dabbling with options, let me know in the comments below what kind of strike price you're picking and expiry date and what's your viewpoint. I'm definitely going to be doing options. I'm going to kind of weigh it out a little bit and see where I see things going. If anything, I actually do feel like there's a little bit more upside than down, but again, I'll kind of dive deep into that in a closer video possibly. But this is the latest analyst ratings. So I've never ever understood why a analyst gives a rating 3 days or 3 days leading into the week of their earnings. It just doesn't make sense. There's nothing fundamentally that has changed to justify or prompt that. So you do have Bernstein, so this individual who has a 50% success rating, so might as well just flip a coin, but they did give a sell $6.10 price target. So officially the lowest rating that Rivian has ever received. So maybe they are placing their bet so then they can come off as, hey, this guy actually knows what they're talking about. They're a genius. If it does pull back, of course, if it goes up, then they're going to look like an idiot. But nonetheless, though, recent ones, $12, $14.14. You did also have one $8 one last month, CFRA, Garrett, who has a 57% success rating. But as of right now, encumbering all of the recent ratings, you have $13.74, that price target, and that does represent a 2.07% downside. So even analysts aren't overly optimistic on Rivian. And I feel like, again, it has nothing really to do with Rivian itself, rather just the environment under the Trump administration. Definitely it's going to make life very difficult. But aside from that, though, Friday's nice run and even Thursday did get it above that 50-day moving average. So on a technical standpoint, up until their earnings, things seem to be pointing that you're going to see a little bit higher highs. So again, that's going to be a key point to really watch for. So $13.46 is that 50-day moving average. Aside from all of that, though, it's above all the key pivotal moving averages. Stochastic RSI, you do see a nice bullish deviation. So blue line above the orange. And if it does continue on a little bit higher, then essentially it will be seen as rather overbought. And what that means is, first sign of weakness specific to Rivian or just the broader market, you could see a pullback. So of course, if their earnings is seen as a miss or even kind of debatable on the line, then you'll see a kind of a swift pullback because of all that. So let me know your thoughts on Rivian. Throw your price predictions in the comments below where you see Rivian is going to be by the end of by the end of this week. Where do you think it's going to be? Around that $10 range, 17, or somewhere in the middle? What's your general thoughts? And one final thing, though, if you are looking for buy signals on stocks, options, and crypto, I did launch a Patreon roughly around 2 months ago, and since then I've called out a lot of doubles, some even quadruples, so definitely a lot of bangers. Might as well pop over there and take a look. Yeah, a lot of good stocks to kind of take a look at. And with all that said, though, appreciate all of you watching, and hopefully everyone's having an amazing weekend thus far.